Hey everybody, this is Mike, and you're watching the Reelblack podcast. And if it's Saturday, it can only mean one thing. We are joined by Jason Clue, author of the 21 Rules of Blackness. And we've got a very, very special guest to join us today because we're talking about the Woman King. Charles Woods is back. Hey.
Peace and blessings.
Hey.
So last time we talked, Jason, you had not had a chance to see Woman King.
That's right, yes.
But now you have. And also, since then, we've done a podcast where we talked about some of the tricknology. Is there tricknology in The Woman King? And Charles basically said yes, but we kept it spoiler free. So we didn't really delve as deep as we could have in the conversation. But now it's a couple weeks later, and I wanted to revisit that topic, if it's okay with you guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, so Jason, I mean, should I bring in the card up or
yeah, you can bring the first card up, yeah. And so it's basically a focus on Tricknology for the Woman King. So I listened to the podcast that yourself and Charles did and thoroughly enjoyed it. A lot of the things I agree with that you said, but there was a few things which I just want to bring up and hear your thoughts. A few things which I saw, which I'd like to get your take on it. You may have noticed it yourself anyway, but I just wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Obviously, I'm aware that you didn't want to do too many spoilers, so you might not have mentioned it. But just right. Just a couple of things that I saw. So first of all, I just want to say that I watched the film and I can see why.
Okay, well, before we jump into that, I think it's important. It's important to define tricknology just for people who are new to this term, the way we use it. I don't know, Charles. Do you want to take a swing at defining tricknology from your perspective?
Let me hear Jason. Jason, you because you're saying I focus on tricknology. I'd like to hear what you think tricknology is. What is tricknology to you?
Tricknology to me is when there is messages within the film which are going to messages in the film that are going to let's see, like I want to say keep the status quo, but the people who make the film have got an agenda and they want to get that agenda across, be it subconsciously, or extremely blatantly conscious. Now, if it's tricknology, it's got to be a little bit more subconscious. So you might not be aware that you're seeing it. It might be a case of you come out, you enjoy the film, and it just and what it does, it reinforces a belief that you had anyway. That makes sense. But you didn't go there for that belief to be reinforced. You went there to watch I don't know, an action film, right? But you come away distrusting black people more than you did before, but not knowing why, right? And that's kind of how tricknology works. Like, let's think of some good examples of tricknology in movies. Some, like I say, some are subtle, some are very, some are like a sledgehammer. But an example of tricknology in recent cinema that I saw would be I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Pick a card, any card. There's tricknology in basically every movie that exists.
There's so many. There's literally so many. It's annoying for me because when it
Let me ask you a question, Jason. You've seen a lot of movies.
Yeah, I've seen a few. Yeah.
You like Denzel Washington?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Denzel. I do like Denzel movies.
Did you see Remember the Titans?
That's what. I've seen it, but I think it was one of those films where I saw it in parts. Yeah, but I do remember the film, bits of it. Yeah.
Did you see American Gangster?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that several times.
Any tricknology in that film for you?
In American Gangster?
Yeah.
Yes. The tricknology in that was So was the fact that again, we're loving a character who's a criminal, right? Is the first part, yeah, right. The other Tricknology in there was that well, the fact that he doesn't get away with it, he gets caught, right? So it's like so you can never well, yeah, he gets caught. What else was there? Oh man, off the top of my head, I can't even think of all the Tricknology that's in there. But there's
But let me do
it was
this.
layered.
Let me do this, because if we say Tricknology, according to what you say, the definition is for you. The reason why I bring up American Gangster is because one of the things that was said about the Woman King is that it's glamorizing a people, a group of people, a tribe of people who historically, because of what they've done in real life, they should not be glamorized.
Yes.
An American Gangster is based on a true character, a true person.
Yeah.
Do you feel this person, as portrayed by Denzel Washington, in some way, shape, or form, he was glamorized?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you come out of the cinema wanting to be Frank Lucas. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the trick right there. Yeah. You know, it's like when people watch Wall Street with Gordon Gekko. They said that more people wanted to get into Wall Street brokers than ever, become Wall Street brokers than ever before. Yeah. So that's the effect these films have. So after watching American Gangster, how many people who were due to go to college decided to take a different career path instead off the back of American Gangster? So,
but
yeah, absolutely.
The point I wanted to make is that this is a film based on a real life character who, as portrayed, was given a glamorous look. Okay? And I don't see how those people who objected to Superfly, for all of the reasons they said Superfly should not be glamorized, I did not hear this against the film An American Gangster.
Yeah.
By contrast, Denzel Washington, he did a film called The Great Debaters.
Good film.
How many people saw that? Based on a true person, Melvin B. Tolson. That film was made for $15 million. It only grossed $30 million.
Yeah.
How much did American Gangster gross?
Not 10 times its budget. Yeah.
Almost 300 million, 260 something million.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So the whole thing is, what are we watching? What are we not complaining about? And then how come some films cause a big commotion? People get upset over the images, and then a lot of other films, no one's saying a damn thing.
You could argue that American Gangster definitely got a lot more. There was a lot more P&A though. There's a lot more print and advertising on American Gangster. I saw that on buses a lot more than Great Debaters.
Right.
Well, if it did, which it did, right? Is that a good look for black men?
No.
Okay.
No, it's not. And the thing is, for me, the movie, I don't actually have my thing in terms of the Tricknology wasn't the whole involvement in the slave trade thing. Like, that's that. Why they chose that group. We can get. That's a whole other topic.
Let's reset the room real quick, just so people who are just tuning in know that we're with Jason Clue and Charles Woods, and we're discussing the Tricknology. Focus on the Tricknology in The Woman King. This is a spoiler-free. This is a spoilers edition. So if you haven't seen the film, you plan to, you might want to wait until after you've seen the movie to check out this video. But so Tricknology is just basically the way films are designed to reinforce the status quo.
Absolutely,
there's going to be certain tropes or things that you see in movies over and over again that are designed to maintain white supremacy, whether it's intentional or unintentional. The Woman King is no different, even though it's projecting powerful Black women. It could be at the expense of something else, which we'll get into, or there'll be other factors in the storyline that will subconsciously or consciously, as you said, Jason, reinforce the nature of white supremacy. So is that do well, Professor Charles?
Well, the whole thing is, what we're saying is the images that come out of mainstream cinema relative to Black images, for the most part, what Tricknology does, it subliminally messages concepts, myths, information, notions that are self-serving for the dominant culture. It's a way to maintain white supremacy at the expense of Black people. So what Tricknology does, it ensures that the images are about maintaining white supremacy, white over Black. And I'll get into this after I hear what Jason has to say. But the whole thing is this: for me, in giving a definition and a history of why I see what happens in films relative to Black people, why I see it as Tricknology, is because there is a root cause for it. And the root cause, the epistemology for me, is the fact that it's all about making sure that the biggest threat to the white man is eliminated, is controlled, and that is the Black man. That's the starting point.
Okay, so that leads into your review. So, Jason, you saw it last week, a few days ago.
Yeah, last week Friday. Yeah, so what date was that? Because obviously this is
you have to date us, but
so yeah, the 7th of October. Yeah,
a week ago, the opening night in the UK.
Yeah, well, it actually came out on the Tuesday, which is a bit strange, but it came out on the Tuesday.
Okay,
yeah.
But you saw it last Friday. We're Saturday
on the Friday. Yeah, so on the Friday with
so
the missus.
You've had time to ruminate over it. What's your review? What are your initial thoughts? And then
well, first of all, I just want to say I love the fact, I love the fact how it was depicting, it depicted that particular region. It was nice. The cinematography was nice. The acting was very good. I thought everybody played their parts very well. They were all very convincing. The roles they played. The story itself was a nice story. But for me, the Tricknology factors was what kept interrupting my enjoyment, if that makes sense.
You were looking for it.
Say again, sorry?
Like Martin Lawrence in Boomerang, you look for it. You've been poisoned.
Well, look, the thing is, I don't know, Charles might agree with me on this one, or I don't know if you agree or not, or you might know where I'm coming from, is when you've seen so many Black movies, yeah, inverted commas, right? Where they're made, served up, bowed, tailored for our digestion. You become very, very cynical, all right? And you watch it completely with you're already reserved and you already got your guard up. You're thinking, right, okay, how are they going to get me? What have they got in store for me? Yeah. What trick? What are they trying to pull over on me? Right. And if I come out of the film and I haven't seen it, yeah, I get worried. I'm like, oh wow, maybe I missed it. Maybe it's gone into my subconscious. Yeah, because I'm sure it was there. Yeah, but maybe it was that good. It bypassed and went straight into my subconscious, but and it's going to play out later on. Yeah, that's sometimes how I think. Right. So when I was watching this, it was very difficult for me to just sit there and relax. Yeah, like for example, when I watched, try to think of an example. When I watched Rambo 5, I was able to sit there in the cinema and just sit there and just enjoy the film. Yeah, watch him killing people and stuff like that, and not think too much. But when I watch a film like this, I can only ever relax maybe the second time I watch it. If I watch it the first time I enjoy it, I can watch it the second time and enjoy it. But the first time I'm just like this.
How influenced were you by the hashtag boycott Woman King and all the information that was coming out before the movie's release?
I wasn't influenced because I saw the trailer, so I had an idea of the things that people would be upset about. But to be honest, the slave trade thing anyway wasn't as much as a factor as people were making out, if that makes sense. I think people thought it was going to be more of a big deal. Yeah, but let me get on to the part, and it's when I hear Charles's view on this, the part which stood out for me, right? So if we just get the slide up, if you just want to pop that on there. So this is the part here, right? So we got, and I'm watching it from a man's point of view, so I can understand women who are watching this now may have a few things to say, or they may have missed it, they may have saw it but didn't care. But this is what I saw as a man watching it, as a black man watching it, right? So there were quite a few male characters in the film, right? These were the three main ones. I think we can agree, right? These are the three main male characters in the film.
Yeah.
So you had Obi, King Gezo, and Malik, right? And what I saw with these three, right? I saw three stereotypes of black males, right? Now, honorable mentions, you also had, actually, I'll speak about those later, right? You had the father of the young girl who joined the warriors, and you also had the king's aide as well. Those are the characters who male characters had like speaking parts or prominent roles in the film. So these three, Obi, right, was the only alpha male who had a prominent alpha male in the movie. Okay, would you agree? He's the most prominent. He's the only prominent alpha male.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, the king is secondary.
Well,
secondary.
I'll come to that. I'll come to that. Alpha male in the sense of his strong, tough, warrior-like male. Right. Then you had the king, right, who was all he cared about was the women, right? Yeah. Then you had Malik, who was the good guy, right? And how I saw these three characters, I saw Obi as a representation of the toxic masculinity black man. Yeah, because they made him like a rapist and all sorts, didn't they? He was like a real horrible, horrible man. Right? There's no two ways from getting away from that. It was horrible, right? Then you had the king, who and John Boyega played the part well, by the way. So it's not a reflection on John Boyega. All of them played their parts well. right? Then you had the king, who came across to me as this almost this stereotype black guy who's got loads of women, right? The womanizer, almost like a pimp, you know, almost, right? And there was that role, which isn't particularly positive. You know, you got a guy. Fair enough, he's married to them all, but he's got like 7 wives, right? And all he ever talks about is the women. Even says to the girl, "Oh, you're very beautiful. I should take you for one of our wives." Right? That's all he cared about.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got Malik, right, who's the most outwardly positive character in the film, right? Now, his role was what? He's different, right? He's different to the rest of them. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what made him different? What made him different is that he was who raised him, who educated him, who brought him up. Where was he educated?
Portuguese, the Brazilians, Portuguese.
Right. So he was educated and raised by European men.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So he was more like a European. So he was different, and he was better, yeah, than any other men who appeared in the film. He was more caring, more kind, more considerate. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He was genteel.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And he was the most positive black man in the film. Right. So they're the 3 characters, right? The male characters. Then you had honorable mentions. You had one of the fathers who was trying to beating his daughter, selling his daughter, whatever it was, and annoyed that she wouldn't marry the guy. Right. Again, it's almost like an abusive black father. Right. Then you had the King's Aide. Remember the King's Aide?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very, very,
very effeminate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That very effeminate black male. Right. Not sure what he'd have been doing in that time in the 1800s. Yeah. I think they used some artistic license with that character. Right.
Well, we don't know. We don't know what it was like back then. He came off as sort of a gay character.
He came off as a gay character, yeah. That seemed like that was some kind of modern kind of character they popped into the film.
So, did you feel your masculinity challenged? Is that where we're going with this, or?
It's not a case of my masculinity challenged. I think it was a case of what we were seeing. So, women coming out of the film, what are they taking from that? What black men in the film would they look at and think, yeah, that's my kind of guy? The only guy is the Malik character,
Malik,
who was different to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He was the one who was the least black in that sense. He was finding some blackness.
It was a little Last of the Mohicans. We can spoil it. I mean, basically, he's somebody who's returned back to his land as one of the slave traders or traders. He's
not really a trader. He's like...
They're not necessarily there to trade slaves, right, Charles? The dilemma is: should we still be human trafficking, or should we be selling, increasing our palm oil distribution and surviving that way?
Well, the Malik character is someone who wanted to come home, where the home of his mother. Okay, so that part of him had this yearning to return to the birthplace of his mother. He had that longing. The fact of him being lighter, it's a contrivance for another role that it's once he fulfills a certain act, it's plausible, because the thing is, when the girl he's got these feelings for, when she's captured, well, no one black is going to get near that barracoon, that cage, unless they do not pose a threat to free this girl. He was not recognized as a threat. In fact, the person who captured the girl even said, if you want to buy her, I'll sell her to you. Okay?
Right.
Right? Is that not right, Jason?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay. So the whole idea of the role he's going to play to help free this girl, that's set up by the fact that he is not one of her tribe. He's someone who's recognized and seen as someone who is someone there to purchase a slave. So he does not pose a threat to free her. No, he's not recognized to be someone who would be a threat to do that. Okay? The gay guy, that could be part of just adding a character in today's cinema where I don't care what film you see, damn near every film they make now, they have a gay character.
Yeah, it's like ticking a box. Yeah.
Okay. So and then the thing is, we're saying he's gay. He could just be it'd be effeminate, you know. But the whole thing is, most likely he probably was gay, because if you remember, the only men who were allowed to be around these girls had to be what?
The eunuchs.
Eunuchs.
But eunuchs don't even move like that. Eunuchs,
yeah, but
asexual.
I'm saying
they're not like
they're eunuchs because, you know, their sexual part is removed. But the thing is, this guy, the same way Malik is not going to look like a threat, this guy wouldn't look like a threat to mess with any of these girls, because the one thing they don't want to do, and the girl was told this: you cannot fall in love, because falling in love is a weakness. Okay? Her going to become a warrior was set off by the fact that one of the things they say is part of the ancient African culture, or you learn that part of African culture is that the women have a certain role. And this came on later on, not in ancient Africa, but later on, where women had a certain role. Okay, you go look up what's happening to a lot of African women. What happens to their hymens? Okay? The other thing is, she was not even this guy's daughter, but he wanted to sell her for the purposes of making money. And she wasn't having it, saying, you know, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be with this guy. I'm not having it. So she becomes a problem. That's one of your first instances of someone refusing to go along with somebody else's program. Okay? Her rejecting that role drove her to become a warrior. Okay? And what she was rejecting is once again what this film is about. See, people they must not lose sight of the fact that this film is not a black man's story. This is a black woman's story. This is about black sisterhood. Okay? And as being a film about black sisterhood, it's about celebrating womanhood. Okay? And so what is being rejected is these traditional ideas from a sexist, male-oriented, chauvinistic culture, rejecting that what we as women can and can't do is dictated by men.
Can I just ask you this question, Charles?
Yes.
Do you think the movie plays into the modern day narrative that a black woman doesn't need a man?
No, I think it plays into the modern day narrative of that women do not want to be pigeonholed in traditional roles. That's what the feminist movement was all about. One of the other things that's very big that has caused a lot of men, black and white, to lose their positions in society is the Me Too movement. Okay, that's relatively what is that now? About 10 years old. But in other words, years ago, you didn't have these women complaining about that. They would just say, if I made a complaint, the first thing that's going to happen to me is I'm going to have to be subjected to the fact that, oh, as a woman, I asked for it. Look what's happening in Iran. They said this woman did not have on her headgear. And they said if you don't wear your headgear, if anything, if you're sexually brutalized, you ask for it. That's coming out of a society that's male dominated. This society right here is male dominated. But the women here, because of the so-called idea of democratization that is supposed to be here, and that women have the right to protest against all of these traditional ways of living, we have this movement where women are saying, I want to be the one who's in control of my body. That's why you had this strong reaction to what happened with Roe versus Wade. Okay? Because this here is like the nail in the coffin to say that, you know, who made this decision? For the most part, it's white men deciding how we live in this world, and men deciding, for the most part, what are the roles for women.
All right. Well, we're talking with Charles Woods and Jason Clue about the movie The Woman King. If you make a donation through PayPal or Cash App during this session, the money will go directly to preserve the Out of the Woods collection, Charles Woods' 60-year long collection of movie memorabilia. So make sure to make a donation this hour.
And I don't know who have sent contributions in the past. I have no knowledge of who they are, but I just want to say thank you, because I know times are tough. And I appreciate it so much. Here's the thing, Jason, and I want to hear your take, but here's the thing. I didn't weigh in on the definition of tricknology, but I can tell you one thing. We've got some collaborating to do, because I like your style. I like what you do. And Mike said, Jason knocks this stuff out 1, 2, 3. But you know, I've been a long time working on my Tricknology book. And your definition is almost, in a lot of ways, what my definition is. Because Tricknology is basically the process of just being able to subliminally see. Years ago, it was overt. I mean, covert. It was subtle. No,
in your face. It was in
it
your
was
face.
in your face. Overt.
Yeah.
Okay. It was. We didn't give a damn. You know. Plessy versus Ferguson. You know, black people don't have a right, no rights that any white man is expected to respect. We have not been wanted here. We're not desired here. I'm putting in the book the nation black people live in America, and America is an anagram for I am race. Racism has nothing, as Dr. John Henry Clark said, nature knows no race. Race is a man-made thing. It's a way of setting up a hierarchy where there are people at the top and everyone else is on the bottom. That's hegemony and hierarchy. It's about status. Okay? The racism we face in this country, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she addressed it. It's a historical fact. White fright, the fear, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, what she got from Neely Fuller, and she expounded on what she learned from him. And then she incorporated it with her professional look as a psychiatrist. The Black man, people of color, are the majority people in the world. In the context of white supremacy in America, the demographics, the white demographic, is being diluted. That's why you have this whole thing now where they've been trying to stop white women in particular from aborting their babies. Frances Cress Welsing calls it the fear of genetic annihilation. Okay? Even Lindsey Graham, look him up, look it up. Lindsey Graham at one time, some years ago, he said, we are being demographically diluted. We're losing our strength in numbers where we don't have enough white people being born to continue running this country. Okay? The browning of America, we hear all that. So it's always been this fear of the fact that when white people look at the world they live in, they see that they are not the majority, they are a minority. Melanated people rule the world. But the one thing the white man has been able to do through Tricknology, through the mediums, the media, is turn it all around in his favor.
Absolutely.
You see, where when he talks about Africa and the Caribbean and Latin America, these places are called what? Third world. When they talk about society, what society has contributed to the civilization of the world, they always want to say Western civilization and not even acknowledge the history, the genius, the science that started in Africa. And also what you don't hear when you get a film like The Gods of Egypt, they even told you why they had to complain. They had to explain why they didn't do right by that theme. But when they wanted to say Egypt was not in Africa, it was in the Middle East, that kind of garbage. The whole thing is this: to control a people, to keep a people oppressed, you have to have the power of the press. You have to control the rhetoric. You have to control the narrative.
Absolutely.
That's what film does.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with you on that one, because like, look, there's people in my family who've got views of Africa which are purely based on what they've seen in movies and TV. So there's relatives of mine who were going to travel there to spend some time there. People are like, what are you going to go there for? yeah, because of the imagery that they've had. Even though they could show them pictures and say, look, this is the house we're staying in, this is what this, and it's like what's that term? Cognitive dissonance. Yeah, they can see the thing, they still refuse to believe it. But like another thing with Tricknology is especially with Africa is when you see all those charity, you get them in the States as well, those charity shows, right, where they raise money for Africa. They still do that there as well. Yeah, they raise money. Yeah, there's something which happens every year in this country, right? And it's by the guy who fronts it is this British comedian called Lenny Henry. I think Mike knows who he is. Yeah, and he is
True Identity.
Yeah, he's been doing it since the late 80s, right? Called Comic Relief, where they raise money for Africa. And every year you'll see him go to some place in Africa. Yeah, they don't even say where it is; they just say Africa, and they're building a well, right? And he wants to raise however many millions to build this well, right? And you see the kid, he's there and he's giving the kid a biscuit or something like that and some water, and the kid got flies on his face, right? And you're thinking, how is it you've been going here every year for, almost 35 years, right? But yet you're still building a well, right? It still looks like that. And again, that's Tricknology, yeah, to keep putting that image in people's heads. Now, when I went to Tanzania a couple of years ago, my mother went to Gambia before that, a few years before that. I know a few people who've been to different parts of Africa, and especially Gambia. People go to Gambia from here, yeah. Like, so black people, there's like people who do the tours and stuff like. In fact, a friend of mine does like these trips there, right? Because you can go to the Kunta Kinte village or something, because apparently that's where it's from. It's actually from Gambia, right? The character or the real person.
Okay.
And they go there and they're surprised and shocked with the amount of white British people that are living there. And then they goes, what are you doing here, right? And then they turn around and say, yeah, I came here a few years ago and I'm just retired here. I just live here with my pension. So they get their pension, they rent their house out in England, they rent a house in Gambia for like for $1,000 a year, right? And live off their pension and have a great time. And it's a trick, right? Because you go there and white people have been going there for years, making money and having a good time. And then we're the ones who are turning around and saying, we don't want to go there, right? And because those images, we see those images and we don't want to associate ourselves with that. We're trying to run away from that. Whereas white people see that and they're like, well, we know that's BS. We're going there anyway, right? And that's another part of Tricknology. But then when they show you Paris and Rome and these places, it's always a poster picture perfect. They show you it in all its grandeur. Yeah, you don't see the rats in the street in Paris in a postcard. You don't see that, right? You don't see the big potholes in the road. You never see that, right?
Well, they made a cartoon, Jason.
Ratatouille. Yeah, Ratatouille. That's probably more accurate. Yeah, where the rats are serving up the food, right? And that's another element of Tricknology. So I totally agree with you, Charles. It's coming in all directions, not just movies, but in all directions.
So let's get back
on right quick.
Oh, go
ahead, Jason. See, I think Mike wanted to ask. See what affects one's spectatorship. What affects one's gaze? You ever hear a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm going to see this movie." Don't say nothing about it. I don't want to hear nothing about it. I want to go with my consciousness that hasn't been tainted by all these thoughts. When you went to see Woman King,
yes,
did you have a little bit about hearing this and hearing that about Woman King?
I'll be honest. When I saw the trailer, I thought what I thought. already. Then I saw people saying things similar to what I thought about the trailer, because there is a thing, Charles, right? Yeah, I don't know if you agree with me on this one or not. I don't know, but I'll say, and you tell me what you think. There is what appears to be an agenda against black males, right? In terms of promoting the feminine, the feminization of the black male, and demonizing the masculinity of the black male. So if a black man's masculine, it has to be toxic masculinity. If the black man is displaying feminine traits, that's celebrated, right? And the other part of the agenda is the black women being totally independent, right? Super duper independent, and also to have a little bit more masculinity about them, right? And that's being celebrated, yeah, or not, and not wanting a black man, right? Not needing a black man. And that's something that's been celebrated. And I've seen it in the US with the appointment of that lady in the White House. Can't remember her name. There's some lady in the White House who does some job.
Kamala Harris.
No, not her. The other one.
Brown Jackson.
Pierre. Jean-Pierre.
The Haitian descent lady.
Yeah, she's gay.
Yeah, there you go. So there's that example there.
Yeah, beautiful.
And then you've got,
she's beautiful, but she's the press secretary.
Yes, her. She's the first one. There's her,
Karine Jean-Pierre.
And then there's the what's it called? The judge lady. What's her name?
Brown Jackson.
Yeah, who's married to a white man, and they put an article out when she got in power or got the position in the New York Times. You probably see this, Charles, from New York, where it said reasons why black women should marry white men. Did you see that article?
No, but the whole thing is with Ketanji Jackson. What I noticed was that the celebration that she deserved was very muted, and I lay that at the doorstep of the resentment they have, black people have towards her because she's married to a white man. Okay.
Yeah, but the press laid it on thick with that, and they actually had it. You can try and find it. Yeah, it said it had a picture of her, and it said something about the advantages of marrying a white man if you're a black woman, or black women should marry white men.
Well, here's what's interesting, Jason and Mike, and we're going to keep this short, but the thing is, and we still have been dancing around the issues in The Woman King, because we've addressed more of the things that as in terms of causality, why do we have Tricknology? Okay, but we really haven't addressed what are the issues you have against this film because of Tricknology.
Yeah.
And how I wanted to say, okay, I wanted to hear that. And what I couldn't say before, and before we close, I want to thank some people because I get attacked. But I told Mike, the attacks haven't been so vindictive. And then I have a number of people who just come to my defense. But what I found interesting is the last time we were on, when we were addressing Woman King, some people say Woods must be getting paid to promote this film. Somebody must have kidnapped Woods. He's dancing around it. He's going. He's not even addressing the issues. You know, it reminded me of when Lou Rawls used to say, I was accused of slipping and sliding, peeping and hiding, ducking and dodging. But as one of the viewers said, Woods said he can't say anything out of fear of spoiling something. Now, that was the lovely Queen Mother. But here's the thing. If we're going to talk about something existing in film that we call tricknology, and we're going to say that in the context of white supremacy, it's intentional. It's not coincidental. It's intentional.
Yeah.
Then what are the ways that what artistically are the ways that they use this tricknology?
Right.
Okay. What are the artistic ways they employ tricknological devices? One of the devices you brought up when you put the 3 black men on screen, what you did is, if I'm looking at those pictures, I see a gradation color-wise, because colorism is one of the ways they employ tricknology. Okay. So in terms of hue, you would say the darker of the 3 men was, in the film, the most brutal of the 3. He was the brute, more of the brute than the other 2.
Mike, could you put the pictures up again, just so the viewers can maybe see what Charles is referring to? Yeah.
You remember when OJ, they had the big issue about how they darkened his image?
yeah. In the mugshot, yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm looking at your pictures, who looks the darkest?
Obi.
The one on the left, yeah, Obi. Yeah.
Right. And you already described the fact that the mixed breed, and maybe that's not people could take exception, but the mixed heritage person, Malik, he's mixed with Portuguese, okay? But the one in the middle, John Boyega, he's someone you said comes across as a pimp. But here's what they do. In a way, the way they had Boyega's look, in a way, if I want to be honest, I could say they almost effeminize him as well. Look at his hair. He usually doesn't wear his hair like that in film. Am I right or wrong?
No, he doesn't. They gave him some kind of beautiful hair, some well-kept hair.
Another way they effeminize black men is they don't make them real tall. Like the black man in Black Panther. What's his name? Winston?
Chadwick?
No, Winston.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Winston Duke.
Handsome man, but he's big. Okay. And because of that look, they kind of made him like a brute in Black Panther. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, he was the most brutish, yeah.
So what happens is another way they effeminize the black man to make him safe looking or appealing in a safe way is their voice. They don't have that heavy voice.
Yeah, John Boyega was very, very softly spoken. Yeah.
See? And if you look at a lot of blacks on TV and these TV shows, what's his name? Harper, Mike Harper.
What, Hill Harper?
Hill Harper.
Mm-hmm.
Hill Harper. Omar Epps is dark, but Omar Epps is not a very tall black man. Okay. Mm-hmm. These blacks who get on these shows, even Mr. T, they kind of emasculated him. They made him like a teddy bear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what they've done to him now. Yeah.
And if you look, and I anybody listening, look at the black men on these shows, you'll see they don't have the heavy voices.
They're all teddy bears, all the big ones.
They're not as tall as the others. Okay, the height, all of that is by design.
But the big ones, Charles, like what you're saying, with even the big ones, they make them into teddy bears. Like Shaquille O'Neal, they made him into a teddy bear. Charles Barkley's become a teddy bear. Who else is a big guy?
George Foreman.
Oh, George Foreman. They turned him into a teddy bear, didn't they?
What about the guy
when he came back,
flexing his muscles, and then he wrote a
Terry
book?
Crews.
Terry
Crews just made him into like a buffoon, haven't they? Yeah.
That's all by design.
So you saw that coming in from the trailer. You felt like
when I saw the trailer, this is what I saw. Right, I saw women kicking ass. Right, and I was like, right, okay, women kicking ass. And then I was like, where are the men? Right, so look, I'm a guy. Right, so I'm not going to lie. Yeah, I've got to be honest. Right, I'm a guy. Grew up in the 80s. Right, so I'm used to action films with a man kicking ass. Right, so I'm going to be a bit biased. Right, I'm not going to lie. Okay, right. So I was like, women kicking ass. Right, okay. Yeah. But then I was seeing the men in there. And I didn't see any men who looked, strong,
formidable.
Right? So I was like, right, okay, this looks like a girl power movie. Like, and I'm thinking, is this to me looks like a woman don't need no man type film. That's what I was thinking, right? So that was my reservation. Then I found out later on about the history of the homie and everything else. And I was like, right, okay. So they've chose that there, because they could have picked anywhere. They could have picked someone from East Africa. I'm sure there's or made them come from somewhere else, because it's so loose anyway. They could have attached them to another group of people who didn't have that connection. Right? So it's like, right, so they've done that to muddy the water a bit as well, so you can't fully get behind them in that sense, right? Get people talking, right? So there was that, and I was like, right, okay, I'm not going to concentrate too much on that, because I know how that works, and I know they love to keep digging that up. And again, that's a bit of Tricknology in the other part as well, because when you have that reparations talk, that's almost to remind people again. Yeah, remember you used the one who was doing the selling. Yeah, so there's that argument, because there's a lot of people who may not even, the new generation who are talking about reparations might not be aware or even ever heard the argument where they said it was you guys who were selling each other, right? So that's now introduced that whole topic to a new generation again, a fresh generation. Yeah, I mean, guys. Yeah, that's
well,
highlighted that again.
Jason, when I was coming up, and I've got decades on you guys, but the thing is, when I was coming up, whenever they brought up the slave trade, they always wanted to have this narrative. When I say they, a lot of blacks wanted to have this narrative that, yes, there were blacks who captured other blacks from the tribes they were fighting with. They captured them and they exchanged those captives to in exchange for some weapons, some food, some different things. They were used for bartering. They didn't know what was going to happen to those Africans. They didn't know that they would face the ordeal that they would face. And so, in other words, there was this pass that was given the Africans who traded their captives to these slavers. See, but now, as you're alluding to, is the fact that now, because history is something that, it's constantly being updated, because the research is ongoing, and what makes the history books is if the investigators, the historians, if they're digging, and in their digging, they're coming up with they're finding artifacts that give insight into what actually happened. Okay. But as I was saying in the last podcast, you have to be able to compare different historical artifacts, different historical books, because you never know, if you don't make the comparison, you never know what is the motive of the writer. Okay, the historian, because you have a lot of historians, when they wrote about the Civil War, they were writing about the Civil War defending the Confederacy.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to close, a point I want to make is the fact that these films, if for nothing else, they should drive you to want to find out more. See that?
Wives of the Leopard?
Yeah, look that up.
Okay. Are you taking a lean back?
No, but the whole thing is, what I was against, and I don't want to be talking too much because I want to hear other things you objected to, Jason. But the thing is, what I objected to was, I'm not saying that Woman King doesn't have its faults, its flaws, its Trigonology. But I said, if I put it on the scale, let's say I didn't, let's say this whole idea of the role that Dahomey played with the Agoji and the Oyo tribes, if we didn't have that, the same way if I asked you, what did you think of the film Nothing But a Man? Have you ever seen that?
No, I don't think nothing. Who's in that one?
Ivan Dixon
and Abby Lincoln.
No, I don't think I've seen that one actually.
Well, have you ever heard the argument? And Denzel Washington made this, but this argument. But the fact is, I think when he did Fences, there was a stipulation by the author that a black person had to direct it. But when it came to Malcolm X, you know who directed Malcolm X?
Yeah, Spike. Yeah.
Malcolm X's daughter didn't want him to direct it. Okay. And my thing is, Color Purple, which was a
horror movie,
film that was a male bashing film. I think people bring that up when they talk about male bashing films. But I think one of the things that really irked a lot of people was the fact that it had Steven Spielberg as the director. But I've seen some beautiful films. Who directed Sounder? A lot of people love Sounder. Did a black person direct that?
It's Martin Ritt.
Martin Ritt. How about, did a black person or a white person direct Precious? You know, so the whole thing is, and I'm bringing this up because one of the things is this, and here's a word to look up, Mike, if you're looking up things. APO PHE NIA.
Apophenia.
Apophenia.
The tendency to apophenia, the tendency to perceive a connection or meaningful pattern between unrelated or random things, such as objects or ideas. All right. That's apropos. I'm still trying to figure out how this connects, but I'll let you go on, sir.
How what connects?
Well, we're to Woman King specifically.
Okay. In other words, where I'm going with this, and the reason why I threw that word out is because a lot of times we see people Not everyone, but a lot of people want to see conspiracies when there may not even be a real conspiracy. I think too many people are dismissing the intent of Viola Davis and Gina Prince Blythewood. And they get caught up on the negativity that someone has introduced because they're upset with a certain aspect of the film. The same way I say, you can look up a writer named Earl Ofari Hutchinson, I believe his name. He did a book called The Assassination of the Black Male Image. One of the films he addressed was Do the Right Thing, where he's pretty much saying Spike Lee did the wrong thing. Okay? But the thing is this. What was the intent? One of the things I heard Gina Prince and Viola said, we want to make sure we didn't have no white savior in this film. That's the same thing the director said when she did The Queen of Katwe, which no one went to see, which was a beautiful film, I think.
Yeah.
Great Debaters, I already brought that up. I thought that was a wonderful film that Denzel did. I'd take that over Fences. I think Fences, if you look at Fences, that they made so much about, is something that showed Black men as dysfunctional and not really committed to the idea of taking care of their children, being faithful to their wives. I mean, and what's her name got an Oscar for that role? Viola Davis, right? And one of the things, a strong scene she had is, yeah, we hearing about what you want. Talking to Denzel,
right?
Washington.
That was the scene.
We hearing what you want. What about me? See?
Yeah.
So getting to the Woman King, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, yes, I already know Tricknology is going to have it where they're not going to have a whole lot of Black people killing white people. That's a no-no.
Right.
That's something that they rejected as early as Jack Johnson, who was the heavyweight champion from around 1908. Unforgivable Black. Look at that. See that? Unforgivable Blackness. From 1908 to 1915, he was a champ. But the thing is, what was his unforgivable blackness? The fact that he refused to let somebody tell him what he could and couldn't do because he was a Black man.
I love what he said. He said, I'm Jack Johnson. I'm heavyweight champion of the world. And I'm Black. I'm Black, all right. They won't let me forget it. I'm Black, all right. I'll never let them forget it.
And here's the point, which goes to Tricknology, as I said before. The root is that it's about white over Black. The great white hope, Jack London, he's the one, the writer who started this whole outcry. We need a great white hope to come and take that watermelon smile off this nigger's face and restore the pride of the white race. Okay, so in the Woman King, the same way in Black Panther, which no one, you had similar scenes in Black Panther, no one objected to. And the thing that saved that is that they're saying the Woman King is not fictional, whereas Black Panther was, but those women in Black Panther were based on what characters, what people, what real life people.
Yeah, the same women from that. But I did have issues with Black Panther.
Okay.
Again, and you make a good point, Charles, when you talk about the scales. Yeah, like when we're going to watch a film like that. In fact, we did a thing on our podcast. In fact, I'm not sure whether it's on this one as well. Black movie concessions. And we spoke about when you make a black movie, a so-called black movie, like as in a Hollywood movie or a British movie or something that's not Nollywood. Yeah, when you're making it with white people's money, right? You have to make concessions, right? So there's certain things you're gonna have to put in, and certain things that you're gonna have to take out, right? So when you watch it, you're never gonna get everything, right? So you have to, like, you made the good point with the scales. So when you watch it, you're like, well, I know there's gonna be this, there's gonna be that. I'm not gonna get this, but as long as I get this, I'll leave happy. Yeah. So so with that said, yeah, I'll agree with you. Yeah, it's got a lot of things in there which should put smiles on our faces and make us happy, because it's got a lot of things that we hadn't seen before, or it's been on the big screen in terms of the women of that hue, yeah, being I won't say glamorized, but put on a pedestal anyway. Yeah,
I
and
think they were,
have a spotlight on them. Yeah, have the spotlight on them.
I think they were glamorized, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, when I say glamorized, I mean glamorized in a way like the spotlight. It's their time to shine. Yeah. So have their time to shine in that sense. Now, was it at the expense of black men? I would say yes. Right? I would say yes. But then as black men, it's like my friend Manny, who's been on here a few times. He was an advocate for this movie. Like before he saw it, he was saying, like, because we had conversations about this, right? And his thing was, look, it's the women's time. It's the women's time. It's the women's time. Yeah, you should just accept
Talking
that.
about the Woman King.
Woman King, yeah, yeah. It's women's time. It's the women's time, right? We've had our time. Yeah, we've had plenty of movies where we're front and center. So the fact they've got their time, let them have their time, right? That was his whole argument, right? And I could see where he was coming from, but like I said, me being me, so I'm just seeing it from a holistic perspective of wanting everything in a movie. Yeah, I'm going to look at that part there with the negative images of men and say, look, that didn't sit well with me. Yeah, but the same way I can say, yeah, the imagery of the women, the story of the women, it's a woman's film. I can see why every black woman I know who've watched it, yeah, has come away and enjoyed the film. Yeah. However, as a man, it's the male characters in there did bother me. Yeah, it did bother me because it seemed that was something that was it's almost that scene that was like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a condition for the film to be made. It's like, right, yeah, the film can be made, but these need to be in the film. We need to make sure that the men appear like this. Yeah, and they can't appear any other way.
You watched the film. Were there any men fighting alongside the Agoji?
Opening scene, no. No, they weren't.
The training.
Yeah, when they was doing the training, and even when they did the training, they had the two pieces
training, and then at the end of the film, you had the black tribe, the black male tribe members, along with the Goji, fighting together against a common enemy.
Well, it was like there were so few men. It was like, there's a couple.
You're saying so few, but the whole thing is, I'm saying, did you see that there were black men fighting alongside the Agoji?
You say, did I see it? It's one of those ones where it was there, but it was,
it didn't register.
When they when they returned from the battle, and they were coming because Viola Davis, she disobeyed the king, right?
Yes.
You remember the scene where they're coming back, they're returning, and you
Yeah.
know that the thinking is, oh hell, she's in trouble. But she was warmly received by the other tribe members. When she was going to get her daughter, she was alone. Next thing you know, when she looked back, there were others coming to fight with her. Among them was male tribe members as well. And then when they return victoriously back, you see the black men along with them. The other thing is this: that film, what was the conclusion of it?
Oh, well, yeah, the conclusion was positive. It's like, yeah, we need to stop doing the kind of madness that we've done in the past, and we need to move forward, and we need to come together.
But here's the thing. One of the things that keeps coming up about the Woman King, where people, because they're on this thing, apophenia, once again, where they want to say Hollywood has this homosexual agenda, especially when it comes to black men, where they want to effeminize them and reduce them to being less than men.
Yes.
So the question is, they're saying, how come it's got to be called the Woman King? Do you hear anybody saying the male queen? So in other words, the bias, that cognitive dissonance with respect to the title, where they're reading into the title that which they have this prejudice about seeing things negatively, because they feel that the imagery, the predominant imagery in this film, is that it is emasculating for the black male, the Woman King. My question for these people is, I went to the hospital last week, and I had a wonderful nurse, did a better job than the doctor. Okay. Was the nurse male or female, Jason?
Well, it's a trick question, right? Well, when you were telling me the story, until you said that part, was the nurse male or female, I just already had a woman in my head.
Yeah. What did you have in your head?
A woman.
Thank you. That was uncoached. But you see what I'm saying? Because I said nurse, you thought woman.
Yeah, I thought woman. Until you said what was the woman, was the nurse a man or a woman, then I was like, okay, right. Yeah, the woman.
Okay, so if I say the Woman King, the reason for the title the Woman King is that when you say king, do you think of a woman?
No, I think of a man.
You think of a man.
Yeah, so it's like saying woman, man.
At the end, John Boyega says to her, Viola Davis's character, you disobeyed my command. But it's important, if you're going to be a leader of people. What did he tell her, Jason?
Then he said to her about you're going to be a woman king, right? Is that the part you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said to be a leader of people, you must have a vision. That's even in the Bible. Without a vision, the people shall perish. You must have a vision that's going to lead us to victory, lead us to progress. You didn't do what I commanded you to do, but what you did was the right thing. You had a vision. You did the right thing. I pronounce you the Woman King. It was a equal sharing of the throne. That, in the conclusion of the film, is saying it's not about the black man, It's not about the black woman, where one goes one way, the other goes the other way, where one is in charge of the other. It's about sharing power. I watched a film not long ago, Gerald Butler. I believe it's American Family. Mike, you could check that.
Okay.
But here's the thing. When the feminist movement started, a lot of women were upset just being called housewives, where they were doing the cooking, the traditional roles of cooking, taking care of the kids, cleaning the house, where this was regarded as less than important than the man going out, doing his 40 hours a week and coming home with the money. When women started saying, shit, you taking me for granted, you think this is easy? I know. I had 3 kids, 3 beautiful girls. And somebody wanted to know if I was married to a black woman. Yes, I am. But here's the thing. I would rather go to work every day than to stay home, take care of some kids. Okay? Try cooking. And you cooking and you washing the dishes and all that other stuff. See how great that is. Okay? Because you can get a job where you like what you're doing. But see how many women like doing what they do. And then the women started raising hell. Shoot. What do you think? I'm not worth anything? And that comes out in this film where this guy's saying, I'm taking, the one with Joe Butler, I'm taking care, I'm raising all this money. You can do this and do that. And he's dismissing the role of the wife.
Is it a Family Man?
A Family Man.
2016.
Beautiful story. Beautiful story. But the whole thing is, my point is, we take each other for granted. See, a lot of times, if you go to a movie, okay, you want to think it's a movie, but we're getting into messages. Messages. What's the message? When you come away from that film, there may be certain images you reject, you can't accept, you find flaws with. But damn it, what is the message? That's what the purpose of art is. What is the message? Okay. You mentioned the fact that you could see Rambo how many times and loved it. Huh, Jason? Right?
Yeah.
Rambo is a racist piece of crap. When you break it down, Rocky, you can't get more racist than Rocky, a white champion. Huh? They got a statue of Rocky in Philadelphia. Did they ever build one from a man who fought Muhammad Ali?
Joe Fraser.
Huh?
It took them a while.
Eventually, I think Bernard Hopkins was behind trying to get one put up, wasn't he? Is there one there now?
One in Philly. There's one by the stadium.
Rocky, with that racist crap, is a multi-millionaire. Okay? And what was he selling? Beating black people's ass.
Well, he knew it would sell.
Of course. And that's the other thing about Tricknology. You were talking about the images and how the filmmakers, especially people of color who ain't putting their money together, it's because it's a risk-averse business. They ain't putting their money together, so I'm going to make the film I want to make. They going to somebody else to give them the money. And when you go to somebody to get the money, then what do we call that, Mike?
What do we call it?
Yeah.
When we get money from an outside source?
Yeah.
I'm not sure where you're going.
The golden rule.
Oh yeah, he who makes the gold makes the rules.
Okay.
He who has the gold makes the rules.
They're telling you what we will accept in this movie and what we won't accept in this movie. So the concessions that have to be made is number one, we already know to commercialize a film, to commodify it, there's certain images we already know is taboo. You ain't gonna have no black men beating up no white people. Okay.
Yeah. Well, when it happens in this film, it's interesting because they make a point to say like, look, you're not safe here. You helped kill a white man in the film, Malik.
Yeah, he does. He makes a
like he underlines it. It's like, you know,
yeah.
There's scores of black people being killed, but when that happens,
yeah, it comes down to the white lives matter thing, doesn't it? White life is more important.
White lives matter, but you know, black lives don't matter. Okay, you can go to a book, Huck Finn. Huck Finn is considered a universal work of art. It's what they call a chestnut. It has a universal message. Jim, who's the slave, has a relationship with Huck Finn. Huck Finn helps to free Jim, the slave. But the whole thing is in the book, which is not in the film, but when you read the book, there's a scene in the book where the people taking care of Huck, they want to know, what took you so long? What happened to you? Why are you coming home late? Something happened. The boat had an accident with the boat. Mm-hmm. Well, did anybody get hurt? Just the nigga. Oh, good thing, because you know sometimes people can get hurt.
Just dismissed his existence.
Okay. So the whole thing is it's tricky. For a long time, I'm growing up. This is what the revelation for me has been. To learn how my mind has been colonized by this BS. I'm decolonizing my mind. I'm learning the Tricknology. I'm learning why we're not upset when we see Rambo killing a bunch of people of color. When we see John Wayne killing a bunch of people of color. When they want to make blacks, finally want to show blacks heroically, well, it's okay if they're fighting indigenous people, other people of color. Mm-hmm. We spoke about the harder they fall. How that whole film, they're killing each other. That's based on true characters. But that whole thing was BS.
So that's rule number one, basically. As long as you're hurting, it's black on black crime is okay in these movies. But even this film, you could argue, all right, she killed a white person, but in reality, he's Portuguese. He's not a standard bearer of
whiteness.
European white American. You know, he's a Portuguese Brazilian. So
yeah, in the scale of whiteness, Portuguese come kind of low, don't they? They're on the same level as Spanish, just above Albanians.
It's not like they designed the film so that British were coming over. Like, I don't know if we're ever going to get the story of the Benin sculptures.
Benin.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if you're familiar with that story, Jason, but it's a fascinating story about how basically Europeans came in and destroyed the country, took all the artwork and sculptures away, and scattered them, all these totems around the world. And now the country's wanting those totems back.
I think I've seen a few of them in the British Museum, actually.
Yeah, well, they want them back. But the way it happened, it was just folks Google that. I don't want to take it too far off topic, but it's a great story. Make a very interesting film, but I doubt they'll ever make it because it paints Europeans to be the villains. So,
well, another thing that came out of this whole discussion, a number of people say, and Jason, you raised this as well. If they made this fictional, the response would have been different. The way they did Black Panther. Yeah. And we know that a lot of the elements in this film, there was an attempt to capture what many people felt was something that was very popular with Black Panther, you know, because in Black Panther, you had the black women fighting the black men as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, because even Daniel Kaluuya's character, he goes against his sweetheart in Black Panther. But the whole thing is I've always said, they're going. The Tricknology is that someone says there's certain things you can't have. If you're going to have any blacks fighting whites, you have to have white allies. Silverado, classic example.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you a film that many people, they have to really study. I think it's almost crazy how this film, this character is an anomaly so far as Tricknology is concerned, and that's Denzel Washington in The Equalizer.
Mm.
Oh,
Russian villains, though.
Oh yeah, Russian.
Not in all cases, but yeah. But the whole thing is
not that white again.
Yeah, but and that's when you see these ethnic whites, that's part of what I call the denigration process.
Russian whites again, because Russian whites aren't that popular, are they? So you can go and do that.
Not only that, you take Denzel when he did Man on Fire.
Mexicans.
Who's he?
Yeah, he's killing Mexicans. Yeah.
Right, but I think the prevalent rule is these movies being financed by America, by Europe. They're not going to make a film that paints them out to be the villain.
Well, the whole thing is, see, that's more pronounced now.
Mm-hmm.
It always existed in film. When they were making films years ago, as I told you, certain things they said, well, you can't have no black heroes. The whites in the South won't have it.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't gonna have it. That was called the fear of the Southern box office. Okay, and the whole thing is this. Here's another thing that people forget when we talk about Tricknology. Tricknology not only promotes the ideology of white supremacy, it promotes one of the most exploitative systems on the face of the earth. You know what that is?
Capitalism? I don't know. Capitalism?
Capitalism. You see, because what film is about is that, and this came out with the House Un-American Activities Committee. The business of America is business. Don't mess with our money. You look right now in politics, how they always want to attack someone like Bernie Sanders and call him a what? A socialist. But when you hear Bernie talk, he's talking about classism. He's talking about the people who run this country. And the reason why they can run this country is because you have less than 1% of this country controlling the wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to stay in power, Brother Jason, Brother Mike, the key to staying in power, how you spell power, Jason?
P.
Politics.
O.
Oligarchic occupation.
W.
Wealth.
E.
Economics.
R.
Rhetoric. That's the power of the press. You control those 5 things, you remain in power.
Okay. And on that note,
well, did you see anything else, Jason, in the film? I mean, we've been talking an hour and a half, but I mean, what's your recap? And
so for me, it was that was the main thing. It was the kind of anti-man sentiment throughout for me, and the women don't need no man, kind of mantra was woven throughout the film, and for me, that was my main thing. But like I say, I want to just again go back to what Charles said. So I think it's very important for anyone watching, because I don't want to put anyone off from watching the film who hasn't seen it. because I think in order for more films like this to be made, we've got to put our hands in the pockets and go and watch these films. And if these films are successful, then they'll make more films like this, but we'll have to make less concessions. Yeah. So I don't want to tell anyone, put anyone off from watching it. Yeah. But I'm saying, for me, those are the things that are woven throughout the film, which prevented my complete enjoyment of the film. Right. And that's how I'll kind of conclude.
I agree with you, Jason. I feel this way. See, you're not going to be able to sustain an alternative cinema, an alternative Black cinema, if you do not have the support of a Black audience. Now, the same thing that happened years ago when Oscar Micheaux was making films, and you had a number of early Black filmmakers. The first wave of Black films, it was called uplift cinema, where it was a conscious effort to counteract the demeaning imagery that was in mainstream cinema of Blacks. So that gave way to this production of films by Blacks. But a lot of Black critics, a lot of the Black audience, they felt that these films paled production-wise by comparison to what they were used to seeing in mainstream cinema, because the money was different. But the thing is, what was important is not so much not to go see these films and help build a financial backing so that these filmmakers could continue their mission of making more films. Dissent is important. Dissatisfaction and being upset with what you're seeing, it's important to articulate, to voice that, so that the caveat is this: what comes with that being upset with certain images is that you make the filmmaker aware that, hey, look, on your next production, I don't want to see that BS. That, you can see, has helped shape a lot of what we're seeing now. When you have Viola Davis and Gina Prince Blythewood, and as I said, the director of Queen of Catway, when you hear them say, well, I made sure we didn't want to have no white savior in this, they're aware of that trope. Viola Davis, she knows the kind of roles she's been stuck doing. So now if she's at the helm, if she's not at the helm direction-wise, but if she's in a position to help get this film produced, she knows how she wants to look in the film. She wants to be glamorized. She wants to be a focal point of the film. So that's important, because a lot of Black women who look like her don't get these kind of roles. See? But now, with this film, if someone's objecting to it, and one of the reasons, or a number of the reasons they're objecting, is because they say, well, you know what? Maybe you didn't intend to emasculate Black men. Maybe you didn't intend to look like Black women don't need Black men, because I don't feel that this film said that. Because what in the case of these warriors, Jason, the relationship of having a relationship with a Black man, one of the characters already told one of the girls, that will weaken your focus, distract you. Okay? And if you know anything about being a warrior, or even thinking about going to war, case in point, if I live in a neighborhood where a bunch of SOBs are brutalizing and violently breaking in, and you see what's going on, New York's going buck wild. But if I'm not a married man, I'm single, and I'm raised where I know a little bit of how to take care of myself, I'll be more subjected to do something about this crime in a violent way as a single man than I would in a way that may come back to jeopardize my family. Where somebody say, "Oh, you know, that was Woods." Oh yeah, well his family gonna pay for this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
When you, it's like to quote Elijah Muhammad from Malcolm X. What did he say? The most dangerous thing in America today is the man with nothing to lose.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Said, right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's the thing. With nothing to lose. You see, when you have a family, that's something to lose. That's something to think about. You can't just operate solo. You can't fly solo. See? So, but the thing is, what we don't get also in film because of Tricknology, once again, as I was telling Mike, I said, once again, you know, you got another film here about slavery.
Yeah, that was a trick because I made a promise to myself after 12 years a slave that I'd never watch another slave film. No, in fact, and then I got tricked again with Nat Turner, right? I got tricked again when I watched Nat Turner. I was like, oh, this is a damn slave film again, right? And then
Django.
Django tricked me again. No, but that was before. Django's before 12 Years a Slave, yeah. Wasn't it? Yeah. So it's 12 Years a Slave. I watched Django, and then so I think from Roots, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember the last slave film I watched, and I said I'm never watching the one again. I think it's 12 Years a Slave, and I was like, I'm definitely not watching one again. And then I got tricked with.
But look what's happening. Look what's happening. Okay, Mike, Jason, look what's happening. I told Mike the other night, I said, just think what we just said. We're tired of these slave films. Django, I remember Jamie Foxx, he said, yeah, I told these people, just be cool. When you see the film, you're going to think differently. Film had a lot of Tricknology in it, but what was uplifting about the film is a black man, and it's a fictional film, but a black man was the victor, not the victim.
Yeah, he came out on top, and that's like you say with the scales.
Yeah. But they have Till coming out. Now.
Wow, we know that's going to end, don't we?
Okay, so two strategies they have with Tricknology, Mike and Jason, is they always take you back. The erasure is that they don't deal with contemporary race issues. They deal with contemporary race issues not in the present, but in the past.
Yeah, they want to remind you of the good old days.
But if they deal with the issues,
they
say, "Oh, well, racism happened in the past; it's no longer a factor."
Racism happened in the past; it's not in the present. And the flip side is, sometimes they'll try and make you believe the past is the way forward. Like, that's what I took away from Selma, the Tricknology in Selma. I watched Selma, right, and what I saw was black people getting beaten up and hosed down, right, and then they turn the other cheek still, right? And they turn the other cheek. Yeah, guy got punched on this cheek, he turned the other one. Yeah, get punched on that one as well. There was a scene where Martin Luther King gets punched by some white guy, and he just takes it. He's like, "Oh, that boy can punch." Yeah, and then carries on about his business, right? And then at the end of the film, it's shown because of this guy got this job working at this place. This guy got this job working at this place. Remember, at the end, it's shown all the jobs they got. Yeah. So the message was, if you just turn the other cheek, yeah, it'll work out well for you.
What they're promoting, and we brought this up in the thing we did on From Slavery to Freedom. They're not going to depict or portray a subversive black. Okay, they're going to portray the kind of black characters that Sidney Poitier portrayed. The noble black, the safe black. He's not the bull in the china shop. He's someone that he's going to prove his worth by his character. See, so in other words, they don't want any imagery of blacks seeking vengeance and retribution, where they have white characters. You take what made Charles Bronson a popular figure.
Oh, one of my favorite actors, Charles Bronson.
With Death Wish.
Oh, absolutely. Seen all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Each one I've seen probably 20 times.
Yeah.
Maybe more. When you were saying about when you were giving that scenario about, if he was going to go out and if he was in an area that was like bad and everything, the image I had in my head was Death Wish 3, actually, that part of New York in Death Wish 3. But he was going to say something, Mike. He was going to round.
No, I was just wrapping up because
Okay.
This was supposed, folks watching, ladies and gentlemen, this was supposed to be a 20-minute conversation.
Well,
got people watching this.
People that need to go out and get the 21 Rules of Blackness book. People that need to make a donation to the channel so that we can continue to give you this kind of information. People that will or will not go see Woman King, as we discovered from the last 3-hour conversation that we did on this topic. It seems like people are kind of set in their ways in terms of whether they're going to see the movie or not. But make sure you leave comments. We read everyone. I guess in my closing, when I was looking for the Tricknology in the film, I definitely was looking for the way they treated the killing of European or white characters in the film. That stood out to me. But I also liked, since we're doing spoilers, I like where the movie ended. I mean, even though this was based on a true story, I did not get the circumscribed historicity in it. Like, it ends on a very, very proud note, in terms of these women who set out to defend their community do so. And there's no sense of repercussion. There's no ticking time bomb. There's no trick at the end like they did in Black Panther, where they show the CIA agent and the guy ends up giving up all the resources. I thought, for the most part, this movie was solid. And it's something that I would recommend for young women, young ladies to see. It's a kind of wish fulfillment movie that occurs where this is coming from in the spirit of filmmakers who wish they had these kind of stories available to them when they were coming up, and now they're in the position of power to make them. Now they're not making them, not without compromise, but we do have the Woman King in 2022 to stand for this sort of female empowerment thing. And that's all I got on that one, on my take. But so thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll see you in a couple more Saturdays. We'll have some more topics to discuss. Charles, don't be a stranger.
Yeah. Jason, I love what you're doing, man. Great working with you.
Oh, absolute pleasure, Charles, to share the screen with you. Always, honestly, it is truly an honor, and I mean that.